I was having fun with how much I truly viscerally hated the 40-year-old virgin. It is bad on every level. It's bad to everyone to the point where nothing means anything. God, I really hated that movie.
Yeah, it's pretty
So
pretty
bad.
rough.
It's everything I hate about Judd Apatow.
Yep.
I was like, it's so bad. I really hate him.
Are you recording right now?
Yes, I am recording. This is like, we don't have to do the episode. It's
We're
like,
just like-
well, you know what we think.
This is another movie where I like, every time I see Seth Rogen on screen, I'm just like, he's Canadian, we could deport him. Like, I used to have a big thing where I was like, let's deport.
When they go low, we go high. When they deport to Mexico, we deport to
which
Canada.
Deport to Canada.
Which one are we doing? Are we doing 40-year-old?
Let's do 40-year-old virgin because our
Yes, we
eyes.
I
started
actually know, because this is a callback to when we last did a podcast
Yeah.
together. The reason that you hate this movie is that he's a magician.
He's a magician.
That's not the only.
There's so many reasons to hate it.
I know.
But one of them is because I have contempt for magicians.
Well, Abe, I hope you won't be like
close-up
cowed.
magic in this movie.
I hope you won't be cowed by peer pressure because we need someone to stick up for it. Today on Frame Rate, the podcast where we rate frames, with our very special guest, Jamie Loftus. Thank
Hi.
you for coming, Jamie.
Yeah.
Abe and I are
Yes.
going to dive into 40-Year-Old Virgin,
Yep.
which 2/3 of the people at the table unabashedly hate.
It's 2005. I think it's fine, but it's a super problematic film.
Yeah.
And that's why we all hate it. But I don't hate it as much as Judd Apatow's later stuff, because he still hadn't found out like a very reasonable way to make films. I don't like the way he makes films, but I think that
You mean Improv Sandwich?
just Improv Sandwich,
Oh, God.
lightly edited improv as a movie is bad for cinema. Trust me. But no one had ever done it, and he's cashing in on it. And I'm a big fan of anyone who fucks with format.
Let's try an exercise. Someone pitches the premise. A dude who's reached 40 without getting laid
That
needs
is
to rely
bad.
on his buds to get laid as soon as possible.
That's true.
Wouldn't you think that movie came out in like 1996? Like, it's crazy.
Literally
that
the
it's 2005.
incel's guide to bad behavior. It's so bad. It's so bad.
I love it.
It's crazy how bad it is.
Every woman in this movie
Yeah.
Every single
has like an industry dictated body, immediately wants to fuck Steve Carell no matter what strategy he tries, and are all crazy. Like, it's across the board.
This is
and we haven't
everyone's
even gotten
bad.
to Jay yet.
I think everyone is just bad in this movie except for Steve Carell, I guess.
I
He's
think
just
his character.
less bad.
I think his character's mostly good. That was the thing. Is like when
Right.
I was like it's Andy is his character.
Andy
Andy.
Spitzer.
Andy, yeah, like Andy is seems to be nice person. There, one of the parts I did laugh at was when he said like, "I respect women. I respect them so much. I leave them alone." And then like he's I don't know. I'm like I'm here for that. Leave people alone. Go. And then
Yeah.
Seth Rogen shows up and no one's ever gonna tell him to stop improvising. And it just it gets so bad. I like
there's-
Andy though.
That was my second laugh, so you guys have
And there's a
already
lot of
eliminated
creepy
2 of my
things.
laughs.
I mean, like how the group conceives of different tactics to sleep with women. Jane Lynch's character is like sexually harassing Andy. Like everyone is
Yeah.
bad.
Paul Rudd's filming his genitals and
Yeah.
doesn't get fired.
Yeah.
But the Indian guy gets demoted so that Steve Carell can take his job.
Right.
Like all this, it's just like every detail
Every
is
single
bad.
level,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
And the fact that I like Steve, I didn't know Steve Carell had co-written this movie, and so I like
It was upsetting.
lost respect for him too. It's like, dude,
I have to say
What?
this near the top. I should have said it earlier, but like, there's going to be people who just don't agree because can't you just let it be fucking funny? It's fucking funny. I didn't try to not like this because of my politics. I didn't set out to this to be like an exemplar of anything. But within minutes, I'm like, holy shit. It feels so crazy dated that it feels like Judd Apatow, by whatever chance of the cosmos, is so representative of all the things that are rapidly aging, like toxic masculinity,
Yeah.
that it becomes dated so fast. Like, this is only 13 years ago, but they seem like cavemen. Like, I don't know about you. Maybe I was lucky. But even when it was just dudes sitting around, we didn't call people bitches and pussies constantly. Like,
or
it wasn't
just
what we did.
Find an improv game that's just like calling each other gay in different ways.
And just naming
oh my
things
gosh,
that are
so
gay.
much no homo in this
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Which, like, people thought was such a great part at the time. And you're like, it's just going, you're gay Coldplay, you're gay scented candles. You're like, it's literally just a list of stereotypes.
It's
It's amazing.
wild.
I-
It's so wild.
Did anyone notice? And I do agree. I think the movie tries to show that Andy is a good guy who way too easily follows terrible advice, but like I guess he's good deep down.
Yeah.
Like he's led astray or whatever. But
yeah.
his save the cat moment, which is, if you're not familiar with the term, the moment where the filmmaker has him do something nice at the very top so you know that's the protagonist in a standard comedy. He leaves his apartment building and he has a chat with an old black couple who live above him. And the chat is, Andy, how come you never drive a car? Better for the environment. How come you never drive a car? Can't afford it. Ha ha ha! And then he leaves. So his endearing moment is mocking an old black man's poverty. Like if you boil it down.
That's true.
I didn't even.
He just
that
laughs
didn't
at
even
him
register.
and rides away.
That is super bizarre.
Yeah.
Super excited.
Ha ha ha! Good one. Poverty.
Why include that?
Also, also all the redeeming times that are dealing with his romantic art or romantic arc are always just like, just be creepier, just be more in their face
oh my
about.
gosh, some of the lines are wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
What really struck you, Jamie?
Oh, there's so many. There's a line. You're not going to get any unless you're planting a lot of seeds. All women want to do is talk about themselves. So remember, questions, be cool, and be kind of a dick. Like literally going in on like the negging thing. I was like, God, it's so dated. And then that's like, it's always one of like Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, like setting up like, here's a horrible way you could treat a woman, and then he does it, and it always works.
That's
every
what's the
single
weirdest
time
part.
it always
Yeah.
works because the women in this movie, and I know that like because of the way I am like programmed to watch movies now, am like paying extra careful attention to it. But every woman in this movie does not behave like a person would.
No.
It's so like the Elizabeth Banks character made no sense.
Is
no
nuts.
sense.
Poor
Elizabeth Banks.
A guy is coming up and staring you with crazy eyes, leaning really close and basically just saying like "fuck me now" in the bookstore, and she's like,
frothing.
this is
It's so
interesting.
weird.
Also, not to mention one of the strangest parts of the movie to me was when he's like, that woman terrifies me, and then Seth Rogen's like, we should leave, and then he stays.
Oh my God.
And she seems to be down.
Oh my God,
Like, hey, my
yes.
name's Cal, and like apparently they fucked.
So at the end of the movie,
What's the movie saying at this point?
so this is another thing about Andy. That same scene, I agree that Andy's relatively better, but Andy had one fight with a woman that we're supposed to believe he's very connected to in a sophisticated level because they've had 20 dates and he's falling for her. Their first fight, he goes out explicitly to get laid. Goes all the way to the point of going home with a woman, letting her get naked, making out with her, and watching her masturbate. That's way farther than I've ever like gone because I was pissed at a girlfriend. That's pretty fucked up and like pretty far to go after a fight.
Because I was like, they were like together by then,
They were
right? They were
together.
like, he like
He
met
knew
her
their
kids. And
kids?
stuff. Yeah, he knew little Kat Dennings.
And then as Abe says, from Elizabeth Banks' point of view, she masturbates, her date leaves, a chubby guy with a giant beard she's never seen before comes
deport
in.
him,
And she's
Deport
like,
him.
oh, I'll fuck you instead.
Deport him. He doesn't belong here. That is the logic
Ship
of
him
that scene. The logic of that scene is insane because it's like the logic of that scene is once Elizabeth Banks starts masturbating, she can no longer see what's happening around her. There's
Or
so much
hear.
action that takes place 2 feet from her, and she's just coming too hard to notice.
True.
Yeah, it's
Four
like-
men speak at normal volume
My
in the
worst-
next
It's like
room.
10 feet away.
My worst nightmare. They were yelling. They were literally yelling. And God, just like what a nightmare to be like, oh my God, I'm masturbating, and all of a sudden Seth Rogen is here. Like I need to cut my genitals off.
Oh.
And God,
Yep.
I saw his dongle at Burning Man.
no.
There he goes.
No.
Ship him up.
Terrible
Shipped
sentence.
him up. It reminded me of
Oh, it's so bad.
a movie, I think because of the improv aspect too. Borat was a movie that I saw at Comic-Con one year when I hadn't heard of it, and I didn't know even
still haven't
know
seen Borat.
the Ali G show or like Sacha Baron Cohen at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And someone was just like, Larry Charles and Sacha Baron Cohen are going to be there, and they're screening this movie that they haven't even released the trailers for yet. And I watched Borat in a packed theater with people who didn't know what it was. And it's just interesting how films can be experiential, because it's one of the most times I've ever laughed out loud at the time in the theater.
Yeah.
And I have the sneaking suspicion that it's like 40-Year-Old Virgin, where if I watched it, I would be like, I shouldn't have laughed at this. I'm glad that I've grown as a person.
It is good to watch this movie and be like, okay, so society has progressed.
Totally.
In some way. Because it's like, there's no way this movie could come out now.
Right.
At all. Like, and now I feel like that's why, like, Judd Apatow's like, I don't know, like I don't know if Judd Apatow's movies bother me more in this era. I mean, they're so bad. Like, Knocked Up is a fucking trash fire. Like, everything. Deport Judd Apatow as well. I don't care if he's American, but now he's like got movies where he's trying to be like woke a little bit, where he's like, no, actually, like, he's a piece of shit, but he's a person, and I'm like, I hate that as well. I hate him. I hate his whole body
I've fallen
work.
off and not watched like his most recent ones, but I remember I liked Superbad, which I know is not directly him, but is like obviously steeped in his universe.
Superbad is one of the better ones, I think. I like
with this formula of like, everyone just improv, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say,
Don't tell Seth Rogen cut.
if you have an eye or an ear for editing, it is actually upsetting. Like, the number of times it's specifically Seth Rogen, his line ends in a square cut, because you can tell that he wouldn't shut the fuck up, and the editor had to just fade his line out at some point. There's like 20 where it's like, okay, the thing about the horse, I guess, was funny enough to make it in, but then they just cut you off because you wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the speed dating scene? That was the one I was trying to remember. It was like, that was like the most offensive things per minute happening in a movie where
right.
Titty appearance number 3.
God.
He also has that old Porky's sentiment where you're like, it's a comedy, there's got to be some titties.
We gotta get the titties out.
Yep.
Yeah, someone says retarded. There's a bunch of gay jokes. There's a gay woman named Gina.
That's so upsetting.
Steve Carell screams at someone, and then there's that whole thing with Paul Rudd and Mindy Kaling, and I didn't realize this is the first movie Mindy Kaling was ever in.
Yeah.
But there's that whole narrative with Paul Rudd, like, where he's just like, he dated her for a few months and then was stalking her, and it's supposed to look pathetic, but also he keeps being like, that's love, and it's like, dog, that's not. What are you talking about?
In fact, she's the only, like, she seems like out of this movie in a strange way, because she's just saying exactly what a normal person would say,
right,
confronted with this nonsense. Like, no, you're creeping me out. Stop doing things.
It was cool that she had kind of like a significant like line or like a little speech of like, no, this is scary, what the fuck are you talking about, this is blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
but then
Mindy Kaling, you mean?
Yeah, Mindy Kaling, yeah. But then the movie doesn't really comment on it that much.
No.
And it also, like, didn't she have a restraining order against him? But they were at the same speed. It's like, doesn't he have to leave? Like, it was
That's
just
true.
He should have had to leave. Just any time like a movie normalizes stalking behavior is like, he's got a crush, it's allowed. You're like, no.
And the movie
People get
really
killed.
doesn't. The shoe never falls for Paul Rudd, and there's not a closure to his arc. So like literally 80% of the way through the movie, he mentions her and goes, she was adorable, fucking bitch. And I'm like, if my friend said that, I'd be like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And not in a way where like, even in a cartoonish universe, I'm like, not like, that's a wacky exaggeration of real life. I'm like, no, that's dark to say.
Paul Rudd's character is mentally ill.
It's mentally ill.
Mentally ill in this movie. It's, yeah.
He's like, should be on suicide watch.
Mo Collins.
Yeah, like,
I also
he
felt
needs
like
to check himself in.
everyone just tried so hard, bless their hearts. Like, I want to say some positive things. Steve Carell is a great improviser because Steve Carell is a genius. Like, Steve Carell is just an amazing performer.
He went through the
Foxcatcher, baby.
gamut on this one too.
Yeah,
Did you know,
Foxcatcher.
did you know that the wax scene was real?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On his demand.
They had to do it with multiple cameras because there's only one take of it.
That's why you can tell
That's why
that the
it's
three dudes
so-
are just standing. I felt like in the wax scene, he was like, at the last minute, why don't you guys just say you're going to stay and then you can improv shit from off camera?
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like that.
What, just to the point where Jay leaves the scene. I'm like,
comes
probably
back.
because the day they should have been wrapped shooting hours before. And
He
Right.
had
he's
to
like,
pick
I'm
up his
going
kids
home.
and he came back and they're like, go back in and keep improv one more joke.
Rogan's still like cranking out
Alcohol.
amazing jokes in
And
there.
you don't need to. Definitely don't rewatch the film, everyone. But if what I picked up on is I read that research before, like while I was watching the scene, and you can totally tell that the salon artist, like the waxer, she's like unsure about all of this. Like
Yeah.
she's laughing because she thinks some of it is funny, but she's like when right after she rips it off and there's like the shots of her. And it's like a wide shot.
Mm-hmm.
She's like looking away and like, how am I getting away with this? Like, this is Steve Carell.
Yeah.
And
I really cracked up at how much she's enjoying. I felt like she was enjoying herself.
she was
like she laughed
She
at
was
his
breaking.
Her
Yeah.
laughing at Steve Carell's improvs are the funniest thing in that scene. I
But
But
realized.
even then, like all of his whole like strategy going into that scene is like, okay, so she's gonna do the wax thing. That's funny, and then I'm just going to scream at her and insult her.
Right,
And
not
new
clever
fun way every time.
insults. Say
No.
"fuck you, you piece of shit."
Yeah, it's like I was
And
like,
then
oh cool.
immediately
What have you-
apologizes, but
And
like,
I'm
still-
sure before the scene,
They
he was
checked-
very nice to her, and
double-checked
she
it.
knew
Oh, I'm
she was going to have expletives yelled at her. That's not the issue.
It's
It's
just-
just felt weird.
He's
Yeah.
like, no, this is the funniest possible choice to make. It's like,
And I
no,
do
it's
want
not
to
even
say,
good writing.
jumping back to the speed dating, because it's just so much to unpack. Mo Collins, and I want to shout out the actresses. Another thing is, I just kept writing, A, almost every woman ends up in underwear, and B,
Yeah.
they all have the exact same industry dictated torso. like it's crazy that Elizabeth Banks is like 29 and Catherine Keener was 46 when she made this. And I'm like, their bodies are identical because they have to be or they wouldn't have these roles,
Right.
which is like bizarre on its surface as well.
Yeah.
But on that same theme in the speed dating thing, Mo Collins does a great job playing a quote unquote, because I don't understand if they even understand what these terms mean, lesbian character named Gina,
Doesn't.
who tries
Hilarious.
to ask if Steve Carell would be willing to have sex with his penis tucked back. And you're like, I don't even understand what you think is going on.
I'm like, what are you asking him to do
Right.
exactly?
She wants to get back on the pole.
Get back on the pogo stick.
pogo stick.
Yeah.
That's it. Just like real rudimentary knowledge of like gayness.
But that's the thing, even as like a guy who's done a lot of growing recently, because thankfully like society and people I love have helped me. But when I was little enough that I didn't give a shit, I still was like, how come every Judd Apatow is the same five guys who can be any body type they want, and always two new women who are models? Like, that was the first like red flag to me with his career.
For sure. I mean, and I'm going to get roasted by all these Rogan heads out
This
there.
is our most
But Rogan's
controversial
the
episode.
worst offender. Rogan's by far the worst offender of that, where it's just like, it's like Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl. Seth Rogen, and then you're just like, sorry, no way. No way. You have to, oh, God. Like,
That's
a woman
knocked
needs to
up,
be
right?
paid millions of dollars to hang out with you. Yeah.
Katherine Heigl. Yeah, that's the one where I was like, he's upset that he impregnated this amazing woman he would never otherwise get. He should be like, thank you, Lord.
That would be an
Will Ferrell and Christina Applegate.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Is it-
Are
you're
you
like-
kidding me?
Mona Lisa and the swamp monster.
Exactly.
Well, it's not even like there's anything like wrong with their body types. It's just like that there's no like like you were saying, there's one female body type
Yeah.
allowed. Period. And
then-
you have to like kill yourself to get it.
Yeah, I was wondering even, because that's why I checked on the various ages. I'm like, I wonder if Steve Carell is 40 when he's filming this, and I wonder if Catherine Keener is, which they were, 43 and 46 respectively.
Yeah, which I took note. That's like kind of rare for a
It is rare.
female like romantic lead to be older than the person she's dating in the movie. I was like, that's one point.
And that's
That's 1 point for the movie.
because she is like a shining star that just owns.
Catherine
so,
Keener's
like,
amazing.
Catherine Keener's fucking
Yeah.
amazing.
And
She's
she-
undeniable.
And she also, I can say pretty confidently, would not have gotten that part if she wasn't keeping it fucking tight.
Yeah, I
which
agree.
she
I agree.
is.
And then
So
right
good.
after, if we can get into adjacent issues, the thing that actually got me the most in the whole movie of like, is this from a time capsule? Is after the speed dating thing, Jay gets caught by his girlfriend and blames it on Andy. So Andy tries to back him up. First of all, bad friend move. Lying
Yes.
to your friend's girlfriend for the first time you meet. No good. But secondly, the bit is her going like, oh, so you called her an easy asshole? And he goes like, yes, I did. Over the top black voice. Like, that's the bit.
Yeah.
Is do black voice to prove that I wrote those things. And when I like rewound and I'm like, yeah, no, Judd Apatow and Steve Carell wrote this. That's weird. That's weird that they wrote this. And like, and then once I was keyed into that, it just seemed like people of color, characters of color were used to make racist jokes at one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
Muj and Haziz, the two Middle Eastern people, were like hated Jay and Jay hated them. And I'm like, but you, Steve Carell and Judd Apatow sat down and wrote those lines.
Right.
And they
Yeah.
are racist shit. Like
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
saying racist shit to each other.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
weird.
There's pretty bad ones because they're like, when they're looking at the baby photo and stuff like that, there's also just like the, I think it's Jay's like, he's like, his whole idea is that the baby's got a big dick.
Right.
And-
Again, hilarious.
Yeah, and then and people are talking about like it's already like a drive-by or something is the line.
When he gets out of the womb, we'll already be on parole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like
Okay,
that.
no,
It's just
I
like
pushed
those
so
too far.
bad.
I realized it's like there's this level of delight while you're watching it of like, I can't believe how bad this is. But then when you really unpack it, you're like, now I'm depressed.
Yeah,
I mean, and even like the choice to make Jay's character the one who is always cheating, and I thought was like, I mean, they're all bad, but like Jay does the worst
Right.
stuff
Yes.
out of everyone, and I'm like, that's a clear choice, you
Right.
know, like yeah,
And gives the advice that every man has a code inside him that says he has to tackle drunk bitches.
yeah.
Oh,
Which is
God.
like, boy,
he's like you have
howdy.
to fuck like 30 hood
Hood rat,
rats, and
yeah.
you're just like, Judd Apatow at his house wrote that down,
Right, right.
And in his mansion, he wrote that racist thing down and then made a ton of money.
Or
It's
I wrote
depressing.
down that line too because that
Yeah.
one I think is like such
Whoa.
a. It's like a sign. It's like you were talking about resonance lines with Groundhog Day, like lines that are kind of perfectly written for like the topic of it. That's like a resonant line for like why this is like such a problematic movie. Is the Gazelle quote about how you just tackle drunk bitches because you gotta.
And it's normal.
Like,
Don't
your
feel bad about it.
programs-
That's how men are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like as soon as I heard that, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
That's what this movie is. It's just about like kind of raping women.
What about
Absolutely.
What
yes,
about
yeah.
when Paul Rudd finally gets chewed out by the girl he's been stalking? He gets depressed enough that he decides to leave women alone. And then his friend hires someone at work only to be fucked by him.
Yeah.
Slaps him in the face, and he does the bit where it's like, thanks for snapping me out of it. Now I'll go fuck that woman that you hired
Right.
only for me to fuck her.
Yeah.
It-
And it hard cuts to them making out.
So-
Also, these dudes like can just be like, I'm really shy and I'm bad at flirting, and we're fucking. It's
Right.
like-
And you're just like, in what fucking world
Yeah.
does this?
it
it's
also
frustrating.
like it's just it's normalizing both genders, or like it has no idea of this plurality of genders, but it has two genders in this movie with I guess Gina technically, but even we
Well, and
talked
then
about how that's mishandled.
There's
but
a
even on the
trans joke
guys
too. There's like that big trans joke too.
Yeah, that's right.
Where they literally, I think they
They
was a
set him up
particularly
with a
bad line.
prostitute.
Even with
You got a
the-
Hummer from a tranny
Yeah,
was the
You
line.
got a hammer
that's
from
it.
a tranny.
Horrible.
And they they equate being transsexual to being gay immediately. And
Yes, yeah.
the 2 times they equate being a virgin, he goes, "Oh, I'm a virgin. Oh, you're gay? It's okay if you're gay."
Yeah.
And then later, even when Paul Rudd's like, "I'm going to take a break from sex for a while," he goes, "Oh, so you're gay now?" Like, Jesus Christ, is everyone gay if they do anything but fuck?
And they fuck up.
Gay people fuck more than all of us. I don't understand.
They
I
also
don't understand.
fuck up like how men's friendships work too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
just like Paul Rudd coming in, just has a big box of porn that he just drops at his friend's house
And then screams about.
and then yells at him and like points out like, no, that never happens. That's not. There's no
Oh, yeah.
person with a box of porn. What is this?
Yeah, there's
Maybe
no
at
analog porn.
age 15, not goddamn 35.
35. Yeah.
And then the Catherine Keener's character's reaction to finding a box of porn is also so weird. It makes no sense. She's like, "What? You have porn?" I was like, "You're an adult." Yeah, he's, of course,
Yeah.
look at him. He's got a
Are you
creepy box
gonna
of
murder
porn.
me?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I was like that. Whoa.
That
And then
makes
I was
no
like-
sense. And then she runs out of the house. I don't know. That was confusing.
That was crazy to me that they did a callback that actually completely undermines what they're going for, like the emotional tone of the ending.
Right.
Because in the middle of this thing where in about 4 minutes you want us to believe that A, he's a good guy who has learned several important lessons and she loves him for real and he loves her for real and they both know each other's genuine selves and this relationship is off on a good foot and it's like good and we're happy. 4 minutes ago, they had so little trust between them that she fled his house because she thought he was going to murder her.
And all he has to do is
Makes
say he's
no-
a virgin.
And then he goes like, "No, I wasn't going to murder you. I'm a virgin." And she's like, "Oh, of course."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not anything about like you lied to me. I mean, they're both kind of bad. Like, she also lied about having children first. Like, there was a lot of
Yeah.
real like lying happening on both sides. But like, that when someone lies in a relationship, you don't immediately you talk about it. It
Yes.
not immediately like you are forgiven forever and you don't need to explain.
Especially when you just made me fear for my life.
Yeah.
And like we had a high speed
Right.
chase.
But in this movie, apparently, depending on the lie and who is doing the lying, it becomes the biggest issue or is absolutely fine.
I do think
So
it's notable
confusing.
that depending on how you count it, after she tells the truth, which is I didn't tell you I had kids and I have a third kid and I'm a grandma, sorry. He's like, he tries, depending on how you count it, 2 or 3 more lie tactics before he finally has to get hit by a car and then go, "Fine, I'm a virgin." But like
Right.
he still tries to several other big lies. Like she tells the truth at like the midpoint and he waits all the way to the end, which I thought is weird because it's like this first moment is actually the first moment she has been on an honest date with him.
Right.
Is the final moment. So we don't know anything about their relationship at all.
Right. Their relationship is weird. There were moments that it really worked for me, and then other moments where I was like, I don't understand. Why does she think he's going to kill her? I kind of liked that fight they had where she was like, "Let's get rid of all your stuff and like what makes you who you are," basically. And because there is like such a weird conflation this movie makes with like you own a board game and therefore you are a virgin, which is often true. But some
there used to
people,
be a
board
giant
games
stack of
suck.
board games right
They're-
over there.
I mean, but it just so she's like trying to get him to like sell his personality, and he like stands up for himself and is like, "No, this
And
is
I
a
thought
thing."
that
I thought
was
it
the one
cool.
time there's like a valid thing for him to be upset about. Yeah,
Right. And she like, and then the difference is because I feel like this is like more often like a gender swapped thing where like the man tells the woman like everything about you has to change so I can fuck you. Basically, like she's all that Princess Diaries whole bit. But this one is cool because he like stands up for himself and like is able to keep his personality intact while also eventually fucking, which is great. But then usually I feel like the reverse of that is normally the total opposite, where like the female character will like take her glasses off, get hot, ditch the books, and stay that way.
Yeah.
Forever.
The guy's
so
on the
I liked
pedestal.
that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't like romances where either one's on a pedestal. But
Yeah.
I'd rather have the guy on the pedestal than what was on the pedestal repeatedly in this film.
The pussy was on the
pussy
pedestal.
on the pedestal.
As-
What a
Yep.
hilarious
Well,
line.
that's what's weird to me about, I think, people who are not interested in or just have not tackled the fact that there's a separate layer of the way our perceptive reality is forged. It's not simply that someone said something racist. That's bad. That is bad, and it's more aggressive and overt than what I'm about to talk about. But normalization is such a strong thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's this movie where not multiple characters who never meet in the movie, and including one background character, Cedric Yarbrough, say, oh yeah, guys, I'll put pussy on the pedestal. You can't put pussy on the pedestal. A 15-year-old who went to see that movie, who thinks it's funny, would think that joke must be based on observations of the world that this person has made. Mm-hmm. The world, therefore, becomes a little more like that in that kid's brain. And so I just think normalization is just as important as like overt racism, because this 80% of my problem with this movie is normalization. Like, it accepts a world where, oh yeah, of course, dudes just want to fuck. Oh, they don't care who it is as long as it's a female. Oh, if it's a dude, you're gay. That's
and
bad.
it's just taken for granted.
Yeah, all these things are the baseline normal where we start.
Right.
And you're like,
Yeah.
dudes just want to bro out and fuck. And you're like,
And
I
if
wish
you don't, you're gay and you're awful.
Yeah.
Like, literally, there's like that moment where Paul Rudd is describing, I mean, he's also a stalker. There's so many layers of issues, but he's basically describing like having like an intimate connection with someone, and then they're like, you're gay. I was like, what? No, no. Yeah. They're like, sex can only be, and then Seth Rogen talks about his, like, literally about his sweaty ass and his dog licking and
his
then
butt. Yeah. And of course you can, I think, point people miss when they, or if I don't want to give people an excuse to shut their brain off in this episode. An easy way people shut their brain off is they go like, well, what about this movie where that happens? Everything that matters, and that's what's so important to me about normalization, is the context. In The 40-Year-Old Virgin, nothing structurally shows that any of them are wrong. All the gods of the universe constantly reward the behavior, and background characters who just represent like the universe at large reinforce all their behaviors and make them seem normalized. So I'm not saying there can't be anything in a movie, but I have to see the movie and be like, was that handled?
Yeah, I mean, we just did
sensitively
the Groundhog Day podcast, and it's like, it's slightly different to us just because it's not, it has these really problematic moments because he's like lusting after her, but he does inside its own movie, and that is true in 1993, that, you know, which is also a different time, but it's more advanced than this movie is by
That's
a
what's
whole
crazy
bunch.
is these episodes will come out separated, but we covered them back to back. And this is 2005, Groundhog's Day 93, and in Groundhog's Day there's like one really creepy scene where he's way too pushy with Andie MacDowell.
Oh, yes. We've
you know it.
covered this
Okay.
on Bechdel Cast, yeah.
And then, like, of course, there's things to extrapolate and talk about, but isn't it crazy how much worse this is in 2005?
This is like such a Bush era comedy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so,
it is.
it's just aggressively bad. It's, you know, this movie was a gigantic hit. Like,
Huge.
everybody saw this.
His whole
movie.
career is
So-
still skating off this and Knocked Up, I would say. Right?
Yeah. which are
this
two of,
made
like,
The Office
the
in a way.
worst, most troubling, like, poison a generation of young men kind of movies you could possibly see. Like, there were so many shitty lines in this movie that I remembered, not because I'd ever seen the movie, but because I'd heard it when I was in middle school when this movie came out. And I remember, like, hearing it just, the pussy on a pedestal thing I'd heard over and over and over. I didn't even know that it came from this movie.
Oh, yeah. And mine was, you know
'cause I
how I
heard
know
it-
you're gay. I heard that over and over.
Oh,
you know how I know
God.
you're gay, blank thing. Yeah.
Great.
Great. Good one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good way to condition young people.
It made me wonder if this is like, because I also agree, it was weird how, okay, it's valid to explore the point of someone invasively trying to change you. And there's a balance that I think everyone has to figure out for themselves between compromising. You do want to change, you do want to improve, but it can't be just for the other person, blah, 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 blah. But it was under the guise of, you got to grow up. If you don't grow up, you're a virgin. If you have hobbies, you're not grown up. If you have hobbies, you're a virgin.
Right, yeah.
And like all those things are weirdly, they don't connect to me. That's bizarre. And to the point where I was like, they actually have a montage where he has a bunch of hobbies that you're supposed to be laughing at how pathetic they are. And they're all hobbies that I either do or would love to do. Like
His
good
house
at
is kind of really cool. I really
he's good
liked
at
his
trumpet. I'm like, I'd love to play the trumpet. Well, are you
Right?
fucking kidding me? And then I wonder, is there any chance this is just the story of an asexual person who is forced by society
Yeah.
to have a relate. They're like,
That's
fuck
exactly
no,
right.
dude. You will get your dick wet.
Yeah, you need to be like us and motivated by the same stuff because being different is bad.
Asexuality is not even like acknowledged by this movie as a thing that could exist. They're like, no, everyone has a flaming hot boner all the time.
Yeah, and
you're just ugh.
They like have to invent a reason for him to be like, yeah, let's not do it for 20 dates, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and they're like,
Like-
why haven't you had sex before? A series
he's
of
terrified
slapstick
of it.
coincidences.
Oh, God,
It's
yeah.
not that he doesn't
Where it's
want
like,
it. Just
the women did it to him. The women hurt his feelings. That's
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're like, oh, it's their fault.
That's
Steve
true.
Carell. It's oh my
It's
god.
the girl
yeah.
with the bloody nose's fault.
If she wasn't such
Right.
a bitch, then maybe he wouldn't be so scared of women who are so scary and mean to him. You're just like, God, I hate Judd Apatow.
Stormy Daniels appears in this film. She's the porn star
yeah,
on
that's
television.
Wait, really?
The same Stormy Daniels who's currently
Whoa.
suing the sitting president of the United States.
Cool.
you want to hear something funny given I find it mildly amusing
Mhm.
given how we feel about the film. The production stopped at the beginning because the studio saw that they were scared about Steve Carell look like a serial killer. And I'm just like, so that you're not cool with.
That's really
There's a
funny
line.
because after The Office, it was hard to go back. Like after The Office, people were like, now you're going to be in Foxcatcher? That's weird. It's weird to think that executives at one point were like, no, you're too creepy to do comedy. That's his bread and butter now.
Yeah.
Right.
Bizarre.
I think it's just how he looked. Like
As a dude, I try very hard so that I don't seem super hypocritical to give things credit if there's credit to give. So I will say the morning wood pee bit is refreshingly true and honest as just a bit about like how the male body works.
right.
Whereas like no one dared to talk about that before that. I'd never seen it in a movie.
Uh-huh.
But yes, every dude has woken up with a hard on and had to pee anyway by like awkwardly leaning over.
Yeah, that's true.
And that
take your
doesn't
word for
offend
it.
me. It's just a thing about
It's
the,
just
that's a
it has
foible.
nothing to say about anything. It's
Foible.
just like here's a little bit about human body.
But then he immediately ruins it by bathing instead of showering, which is disgusting.
That is gross.
yeah, that is weird.
He rides a bike, so he's gay. Is apparent. Is like
Yep.
implied.
He's a virgin.
Therefore he must drive a bike.
They actually did they got psychologists tests for older virgins
Uh-huh.
and from a few studies and they
Brutally
found-
mocked them.
and apparently it was great. Like who can trust Apatow? But the version that they had created in their mind was true.
Modeled off that.
No, it wasn't modeled off of it. They made one, and
Uh-huh.
then there was a lot of consistency.
Okay.
Isn't that weird?
I don't know, but what
What does that mean?
What are the things they take as causal that he owns?
I don't think
action
it's
figures?
causality at all. It's just like what older virgins do and how they
Sure.
act
Okay.
in these studies.
Well, I would know, and I disagree. All the he plays Halo. He watches MST3K. He listens to Asia. I check. I do all those things. I don't work at a Radio Shack, thank God. What a miserable existence work-wise I think they both have.
yeah.
She has an
A
eBay
shout out
store.
to our
eBay's,
radio-
I like the eBay store.
But you know, in the near
Yeah.
future, it will go under.
Yeah.
So, like, their financial future is going to be. I guess he gets $500,000 at the
actually-
end for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, well,
So
he
he's
needs to be rewarded.
He needs to be rich
I
at the end.
actually
He needs to
really
be
like
rewarded.
for the same reason another one that I laughed at was the Jonah Hill bit is at the eBay store is really solid.
Yep.
He's just like, why are you making this so hard for me? I want to give you money so I can take these shoes home.
I knew
and wear them.
Jonah Hill was gonna rear his little head, his tiny head. Jonah Hill has a tiny head. I'll say it.
Tiny head?
His head
I'll
is
take your word
too
for it.
small. It doesn't make sense. It's scary. Jonah Hill is not as
Have
bad as
you-
Seth Rogen, but
Have you seen the trailer for Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot?
no. Is his
Jonah
head
Hill's real
tiny?
skinny in that, so his head might be appropriate sized in your eyes. I don't know.
No, it doesn't. Skinny Jonah Hill
It
still
doesn't have
has
to
a tiny
do with
head.
skinny or fat Jonah Hill. Okay.
No, it just bones wise. his head's too small.
Tiny bones.
It's got tiny
I'll have
bones.
to
It's
look
got a
for that,
small head.
and then I'll never be able to unsee it.
It's happened multiple
Okay.
times to me on the street as people think I'm Jonah Hill.
That's true. That's just because you're so funny and casual.
Yeah.
I,
Your
uh,
head's a normal size.
I'm playing
Well, thank
Boggle
you.
rules because I said at the top, I laughed 10 times in this movie, and I knew I was going to be super hard on it, so I want to at least mention the times I laughed. But I'm eliminating them as we cover them. Laugh number 6, Jonah Hill buying the shoes.
Yeah. That was it was a good little bit.
Specifically the line,
Because the
It was
eBay
cute.
store is a funny
I'm just
idea.
trying to get these shoes back to my home so I can wear them.
Why are you making this so hard for me? It's just like such a good thing.
So I
Like-
guess I'll just give you some
like,
money and
I'm
take
not
these
angry at
shoes.
you. I just don't understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
the Leslie Mann character wanted.
The drunk driver, for people who don't know her by name.
Yeah, that also. Oh boy, that we
Right.
touched on it briefly,
Bad
but
woman
just
drivers.
and the fact that she cannot really give consent in this situation, and
Right.
then the next scene. And this was like one of the most egregious examples of like what an interesting way to set a toxic scene where like Seth Rogen, Paul Rudd, and Jay, who's the actor?
His name is Romany Malco.
Okay. So they're outside of like Best Buy smashing glass and
Glass
talking
tubes,
about
yeah.
how Steve Carell should have
Right.
date raped that woman.
Yep.
Like that and it's so casual,
yeah.
so chuckly. They're smashing glass and being like, you should have date raped her. Like I was
Oh
like,
my God.
Oh my fucking God.
I
This
think
is a scene.
I think you just made me realize one of my favorite like movie pitches I've ever thought of is we need to get out. That's a bro comedy where those scenes are played like realistically, but it's like
Right.
4 dudes in the alley joking about how you should have date raped that girl. Is like now it's so tense and full of terror.
Yeah.
So it's and then just like every like female character makes a period joke or talks about vagina, and it's just like because I mean like Judd Apatow clearly doesn't know a lot about writing female characters. He's never done it successfully.
Well, there's different
Never.
options. He wrote it.
Uh-huh.
He didn't write it and had them improv it, which means they said 40 things and he chose the 4 things about their period in editing. It's like there's no way out. It's always, as you know as a director, Abe, he's always responsible for the end.
Yeah. For
Product, yeah.
Yeah. He's the one who chose all these things.
So it's
They're
like 'cause
throwing
it's his
things at the
wife.
wall.
Well, I was looking into
And
this.
it's his wife. Yeah.
It's Steve Carell's wife, right?
No,
No,
Leslie
Judd
Mann
Apatow's
is
wife.
married to.
Steve Carell's wife is also in this.
Oh, is she?
Her
She is.
future wife.
Yeah.
They were married at the
Oh.
time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. The only
That's weird.
The only reason I like the
it makes me
Leslie
feel
Mann thing
weird.
because I think I agree with you and you're definitely right. I just think that it's one like if there is anything that works with that Judd Apatow style, which I don't want to defend because it actually ruins cinema because it doesn't have any. It's just like put the funny face on the and just just start talking and then I'll edit it
Look
later.
at it, Morty.
Yeah, and her character sucks, but she does like 0 to 60 on so many things.
Yeah, she's a
in that
funny
scene.
actress.
She's a funny actress.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
true.
hate what she's saying.
There's a ton of great actors in this movie being actively disserviced by the
Where
by
it's
the
like,
material.
that's
Yeah.
the best role they were allowed to get, so they
Yeah.
tried their hardest.
Yeah, well, like that scene between Jay and then Kevin Hart. That's
That
fucking
killed me. It's
awful.
fucked up.
It's so
It's so
bad.
awful.
And then the last beat of that
Do you
is
mind
like,
explaining that
he's
just in
crying.
case people haven't seen it?
I
I
don't know if I
like-
can. I don't know.
Then may
Like,
I just want to unpack it before
Go
moving
for
on.
it, yeah.
Okay, because that really bothered me a lot.
Yeah, it was bad.
Is Kevin Hart comes in and asks for like a black guy to black guy discount, like, you know, because we're both fighting the good fight. And it deteriorates into them almost having a fist fight and shouting the N-word at each other so quickly that you're like, is this making a point about black on black violence? Like, it's this weirdly stereotypical thing. Kevin Hart literally says, you're using big words and I don't understand them, so I'm
Right,
going to
yeah.
take it as disrespect. And you're like, whoa. I at least was
Yeah.
like, it's the most hostile Jay ever is or anyone ever is with anyone. And it's like,
and it's not earned.
what are you trying to say? It's not earned. It's like from 0 to 60, they hate each other.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre.
And they haven't done anything about like how it resolved is him crying, And
it
saying,
hard
like,
cuts to
that's
him sobbing.
And that's
Yeah.
like played for laughs too. Of like
it-
men not supposed to be crying.
Crying
This-
equates to him being gay.
right.
Yeah.
Aziz
Right.
comes in and says, "You know how I know you're gay? Because you're hugging.
There-
Because you're hugging."
You're hugging.
Why can't the boys hug every once in a while? What's wrong with it? I just oh God. Yeah, that scene was another troubling scene.
Oh yeah. So,
So-
but you were before that. You were latching on something.
Oh, what, was I?
It seemed
Said
like
the
it.
final beat.
I'm a bad.
Oh, the final
interrupter,
beat
so
was
I try
was
to-
crying.
Yeah.
Right.
Was the crying of like they're like, oh, here are two black men being aggressive at each other with no motivation. It makes no sense, and also men can't cry.
Yeah.
End of scene. You're just like, oh, cool, great, cool.
Great. Got it.
Also, did anyone notice that if 2 years from now Paul Rudd comes in and shoots up the store, it wouldn't be surprising? They'd be like, well, yeah, he stalked a woman. He filmed his butt in the store. He went on drunk and crying jags in front of the customers. And one time he told Jane Lynch, if you play that DVD again, I'm going to come in and shoot everyone in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's totally believable that he would later kill everyone at the
Yeah.
Smart Tech.
They should all be
Paul
seeing
Rudd
the
is
sun.
very sick in this movie. He's
And
so sick.
I still kind of think of him as one of the most naturally likable faces, like Tom
Yeah.
Hanks kind of thing.
It's hard to make him unlikable.
And man, he sucks in
But
this. Yeah.
they really do it to him in
And
this
he
one.
needs help.
He needs help.
He needs help.
There's a version of this movie. I mean, there's so many different versions of this movie that are way better and more interesting. But like a movie just about the Paul Rudd character would be so scary. It would be
Oh, yeah.
terrifying and very sad.
So
Yeah.
we should recut trailers out of this movie for Get Out with gender politics.
Yeah, 40-year-old virgin get out. Yeah.
And then
Just recut trailers.
and then just a murder story from Paul
just a
Rudd's
stalker,
movie.
you know, like a J-Lo vehicle where
Yeah.
she just has to
Right.
get away from Paul Rudd. Yeah.
They're both horror movies though.
And
just to
every
clear-
shot of him is from 40-year-old virgin. yeah.
because it's already there. All you have to do is just put like scary sounds over it.
I also noticed, because you're talking about, this is just like weird filmmaking, but it was weird to me how much the people in this universe didn't exist. So the two big examples are when they're carrying a TV out of the store for a woman to load it in her
Oh
truck.
my God, that scene. Yeah.
And they stop and stand still for a 2-minute scene where he is encouraging him to fuck the bookstore chick.
And then she
Yeah.
goes, "Thank you."
And she just is silent the whole time, meaning that she stood there while
They
the people
clearly
moving her
broke her
shit
TV.
stood still. Like they stood still for a long time and she didn't say anything.
That's weird. Yeah.
And then at the end, he is in the middle of the street. They make out. I was already thinking they've been making out for so long, someone would honk. Someone finally honks and goes, "Get out of the street."
And
And,
then
they
they
go,
keep going.
"Okay." And then they kiss again. And the guy sits there nodding happily through his
He's like,
windshield.
"Cool."
Right.
Like now he's like, "Oh, I get it. It's love." Like,
right.
The
right.
people in this universe are insane.
It's so weird.
All the way down to the extras. No one acts realistic.
That
Yeah.
the TV woman made me, that was one of the times that I don't think anyone was supposed to laugh that I did, because I'm like, oh, she's still there. Seth Rogen is like, whatever, he's like, I think all women should be killed, and she's just standing there, and then she goes, and I'm like, maybe she's gonna have a line, like maybe she'll have a laugh line to end the scene, but she just goes, "Thank you," and I was like,
Gets
what?
in her car.
He's been talking
Yeah.
about like date rape for so long in front of her car, and she's like, "Thank you so much." I was like,
Yeah. You broke my stuff and talked about date rape.
oh gosh.
Did it ever make you laugh out loud, Jamie?
The line
When it intended to, I mean.
the line where Steve Carell says, he's like, I respect women, I love women, I love them so much that I leave them alone.
Yeah.
That was the only time I laughed in the whole movie. The sex ed scene, what was that? There's like that weird B plot with Steve Carell and Kat Denning.
Yes.
Where
She wants to
knows-
start birth control. Her mom's not okay with it. He is.
wants
He
to
So her
takes her to
mom's
Planned
new
Parenthood.
boyfriend goes to Planned.
educated.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
scene is like so dumb. Like
That
they're-
scene's not
All of
problematic because of what
everyone
Steve
else.
Carell says, but everyone else in the scene is terrible.
My daughter is dumb. How can I stop her menstrual cycle? I was like, okay, cool, good. Glad
Yeah.
that this is the.
That's Cedric Yarborough, and I think David Koechner's there because he caught his son boning and he wants him to be better at it or something like that.
Something like
Right,
that. A lot of
that's
horny boy
weird.
jokes in there. I like the Kat Denning character. It like she is kind of all over the place, but like that was one of the characters I liked more. Even though her only function is to be like, "Hey, you should fuck Steve Carell." Like, oh, I guess that is the ultimate.
Because he told me the truth about one thing.
I did like the last line of that scene where he's like, "You have a tiny penis," just because
Seth,
because he hates his son so
much.
Shut
up, Seth. You have a tiny penis.
And Seth is just the worst.
Yeah. I thought it was weird in retrospect that he's dating a woman. He takes her kid to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah,
a woman
really
who
weird.
Is really confused, and you can tell that the fact that he's not being honest with her is something she picks up on, and it's causing havoc in their relationship. Mm-hmm. And he knows this, and he's trying to work up the courage to tell her he's a virgin. He immediately tells a room full of strangers, including the daughter, and then admittedly he does try to take it back and go like, "I was just kidding" in there, and she goes, "No, you weren't," and he goes, "You're right. Don't tell your mom." So the foundation of your relationship is this triangulation thing. Like, I'm your mom's new boyfriend, and we have a secret that you don't tell your mom. That's just like a thing you're not supposed to do at all in that situation. Yeah, that's weird.
I kind of hate Kat Denning's line about like how she's like, "How did you know?" Well, because I go to school with like 400 boys, and they're all virgins, so I can tell
who's done it.
Yeah, that didn't make a ton of sense.
Is that
like
true,
she has
Jamie?
virgin radar. She just knows.
That's super weird. Kat, she also has that blow up where she's in the bathroom where she's just like, "Bitches be crazy," kind of like.
Totally.
That's a pretty rough one.
Oh, it's all.
And
it's
how
all bad.
this woman has 3 kids and she's raised one, and she's a grandma. And she can't deal with a teenage girl? Like, that's so weird to me that...
Oh, you mean because she has an older child already?
You're like, yeah, she should be a lot better equipped.
Maybe she's a mediocre mom and was to the first one.
Maybe that's true.
I don't know.
She seems like she's doing all right.
She seems like she's...
But also she owns the eBay store.
Set
so
up to be an
everything she does
angel
is
character. You know, like she's good and pure. Yeah, Jane Lynch should get a mention because she's always funny and she takes whatever roles she can get and does her best in them, and I love her.
Yeah, she's the best. She's obviously disserviced by this movie in a gigantic way.
Her Guatemalan song, isn't it just like nonsense words?
That was one of my laughs. Is she sings a Spanish love song saying that her boyfriend sang it to her all the time, and it translates to something like, "Please leave me alone after sex so I can watch a game of football." And I was like,
I think I might have.
That's also a misogyny joke, but it's funny just because the way she's singing it, and it ends with "El partido de fútbol."
When I clean my room, I can't find anything. Where are you going in such a hurry to the soccer game?
Oh, okay, that's it.
And she said that the reason she ad-libbed that is that...
She ad-libbed it. That's even better.
It was just a practice dialogue she remembered from a high school Spanish class. Like, so she just took things from a high school Spanish class.
And added melody. That's great.
Like, "Donde está la biblioteca," kind of stuff like that, because we all learned that phrase.
I want to go through some of my laughs and see if they got anyone, but it's Jamie's already out of the boggle game.
I'm out.
Steve Carell's improv about the egg salad sandwich, literally just the way he did it. Particularly when
I missed that.
When he wipes the dust off the counter in between 2 lines. He goes like, "I was just really craving an egg salad sandwich, and I made a big batch, and it was okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any bread." That got me.
Yeah, it's almost like it's funnier when it's not doing horrible things.
Right.
It's just making jokes about egg salad or, you know.
5th laugh. My bar had become so low from watching this.
Oh yeah, everyone's IQ. We all lost IQ points watching this.
That
movie.
I laughed super hard at the joke from Everybody Loves Raymond that they watch on TV, and I hate Everybody Loves Raymond. I think it's not funny.
That's so good.
And they're watching Everybody Loves Raymond, and Peter Boyle goes, "Don't talk to your mother that way. You talk to her that way. She's not my mother." And I went, "Oh God, this movie's so bad." I laughed at that.
It was just like a laugh of relief that you didn't have to watch the movie for a second.
Something else is happening.
It's just a vaudeville joke. Yeah. All right, I got 9th laugh was you and the other Aquamen are going to an aqua farm where there's lots of land so you can run around in the aqua fields.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And then the only other thing I wrote was, this movie is so long.
Yeah, it really was.
Doesn't it feel like time is dilating? It feels so long.
Yeah,
It's so, I mean, every Judd Apatow movie is 45 minutes too long because just tell Seth Rogen to stop talking. Just mail him to Canada. I don't okay. So the way this movie ends is so 2005 too, where it's like, ooh, random alert. We got some random humor where it just, oh God, that long Age of Aquarius, that felt like a punishment. I'm like, this movie is 2 hours long. 2 hours.
And they did a whole number.
They did a whole number.
The whole thing.
I felt like, I remember someone telling me that joke when it came out and about how brilliant and meta it was. Maybe because I hadn't seen a mainstream movie to do that. But this time I noticed, again, and this is nitpicky, but we nitpick visuals all the time on here, and we derive meaning from visuals. So just because this has a political cast, I don't think it's any less valid. It's weird to me, whoever chose it, director, editor, whatever, that the movie ends with the love of his life, and he finally make love twice to do the classic, the first time goes quickly joke. And then she is like, what's her last? I want to make sure I get it right. She says like, so how was that for you? Which, if you're taking it as the last line, it's resonant. It's like, how was this whole journey, right? This is our final moment together. Instead of answering his true love, who was the whole point of getting the movie, was to forge a connection with her, he rolls away from her, makes eye contact with the camera as if to say, I care more about you, the audience. And then he dances off camera while she hides her face in her hair. You never see her face again. And he goes and dances with his four buddies.
Oh, she's
Then,
in the Aquarius.
Later in the dance, in a distant shot, she runs in and he catches her and she leaves.
She jumps.
You never see a medium or close shot of her face again.
You do.
You see another shot? Nah, I went through really slowly.
When she jumps in the air? And
Yeah.
they're like jumping at it.
It's a wide shot and they jump. I mean, I'm saying you never like see her face.
Yeah.
Because then the final shot is him in bed and presumably they're both happy, but she's covering her face with her hair and a pillow so you can't see her face.
Right.
And I'm just like, if you're the editor and the story of this is the story of the love between these two human beings, you don't want to see a close-up of her face at the end, like near the end?
You should.
Right.
And I just thought, yeah, you're right. She's in the dance. But first he dances with all four of his bros. And I just couldn't stop thinking that this is literally a visualization of bros before hoes. Like, I got what I wanted. I had sex with you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to beautifully dance with my man friends. Then you can come back.
Yeah.
I don't even have like a political reason for not liking that scene. I just thought it was fucking dumb. Like, I was just like, man, I've been watching this movie for 6 hours.
Just get
This
it
movie's
done.
6 hours long.
Get it down.
Oh,
I think
God.
it sits well with me as a joke in principle. With me, it was the execution. I don't know. Because, like, this is the end. The random ending worked for me, and I can think of a few movies with a random. I just saw Sorry to Bother You, and the ending is random. Like, you would have to call it random, but it totally works. So, I don't know. Depends on the case. I do think you're right that it hurts when you're like, it's already been so long. Why a musical number?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. The movie was already so long, and then they're like, nope, you have to watch a whole musical number.
Isn't this
That
his
makes
shortest
no sense.
movie?
I don't know.
Okay.
Is it?
They
It's his
shot.
first, so I feel like he'd be more restrained.
They shot over 1 million
no
feet of
way.
film, though, so
The
it's
o-
got like a pretty crazy ratio.
The director's cut
relative.
is 16 minutes longer.
What?
It's a lot.
What is it? What happens?
Oh, seriously? Like a
That's
bunch of
different.
it is just the you know how I know you're gay scene is much longer.
Oh, cool.
It's like all
just
the
include
scenes that were
more
improv reels are
improv.
longer. Yeah.
Right. And that's the problem, though, is that they just improv a lot. That's why they get 1 million feet of film. And he's just not a good editor, and
Yeah.
he doesn't know they don't know what to cut. But that's not the biggest problem in this movie. The biggest problem is the worldview that created it.
Well, Jamie, it's been such a pleasure to have you. It's a special privilege. I do want to ask,
Yeah.
does this pass the Bechdel test?
No, it doesn't.
I don't think
It does not.
any women ever. No, definitely not.
Kat Denning. Unless I'm wrong, I wasn't watching it like super carefully for the Bechdel test, but I know that Catherine Keener and Kat Denning do talk, but it's usually about Steve Carell.
And I believe the only scene they're alone in, he enters in the middle. They never have a full scene without him.
Also, their arcs are all about sex.
Yeah, they do have like one scene, I think, that when Catherine Keener and Steve Carell are fighting because him a virgin and don't want to tell. And then Kat Denning comes in and she's just like, give him a chance, work it out, blah, blah, blah. And then that's the
That still doesn't pass, though, because, it revolves around him, yeah.
So women talk to each other. Oh, and there's that great, one of my least favorite /favorite scenes in the movie, a baffling cutaway to Elizabeth Banks and someone 2 feet away from Steve Carell talking about how hot he is. And you're just like, this isn't something that happens. Because
he's being a dick, right? He's finally like yelling and looking angry and violent. And she's like, that's hot.
And she's like, yeah, literally Steve Carell is 2 feet away in a different room. And they're making this horrendous joke at the expense of the trans community. And then Elizabeth Banks is 2 feet away. Like, he's so hot. I was like, what is this? To Andy's credit, he does gender the trans person correctly.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But this movie is the worst movie of all time.
You're like, that saved it all.
So
it breaks
I love
even.
this movie.
Yeah.
So 40-year-old virgin, Birth of a Nation.
Dude, this is by far I think the heaviest we've come down pro or con on any movie. If you love Judd Apatow or a man's rights activist,
we knew it was going to be this. We had to put ones that were like, we put some on the list where it was just like, we need bad ones.
I didn't know how offensive I was going to find it, but we put an Apatow on knowing neither of us really like him, but we wanted to talk about it.
Apatow. What we said at the top.
Yeah.
Like he created a very toxic way of making films.
Yeah.
I also knew that he's just a problematic person. I forgot how bad it was.
Red flags.
It is crazy how cartoony it is. Yeah. I mean, I think he's in no small part responsible for like perpetuating especially toxic masculinity. Like you were saying, like even more so than movies in the 90s. Yeah. Which you wouldn't think is like, oh, it got worse.
Yeah.
And then but it did, and it seems like something that he's trying to like attempt to address in his work now to maybe undo, but it's like this movie is like the perfect example of like
clear which way history is going.
Yeah. The world is not a better place for this movie existing in it.
I fully agree.
Let's my review.
Wrap it up there. Where can people find you online, Jamie?
You can find me at Jamie Loftus Help. You can also listen to my movie podcast called the Bechdel Cast, where we do this every single week.
Have you covered 40-Year-Old Virgin?
We haven't. We've done Superbad.
But you have covered Groundhog Day.
We have done. Yes, we did Groundhog Day. We've done some Apatows, and I always get real fired up and yell a lot about Seth Rogen.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for this week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!